Good evening, everyone.
Link that to you for tomorrow morning.
Good evening.
I'm hoping everybody can hear me.
We can hear you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is the community engagement session. And today is August 26, 2021, and this session is scheduled from 4 until 6 p.m. And we're hoping to get a lot of information from you all. I'm sorry, I don't see the PowerPoint presentation, but are you able to see it, Rachel?
Not yet. Samaya, can you?
It's coming up.
Okay.
It's coming.
up
Okay.
now.
Okay, sorry about that. Give us technology grace, please. Okay. And
Is everyone able to see it now?
Yes, I
Yes.
can see it now. Thank you. So we also have another session scheduled for tomorrow, August 27th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. So you're more than welcome to attend that one as well. Next slide, please. My name is Marietta Luster. I am the Disability Services Division Administrator in the Department of Health and Human Services for Milwaukee County. Rachel, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Marietta. My name is Rachel Caney Frank. I am the Aging Resource Center Manager in the Department of Health and Human Services of Milwaukee County.
So thank you for being here tonight. Well, this evening with us, community. We really appreciate this opportunity, and we look forward to a productive conversation. If you have questions or comments, please use the chat feature. We will closely monitor the chat feature, and we'll do our best to get your questions and comments addressed. Next slide, please. Can you go back one, Samaya? Kevin, can you introduce yourself? Kevin is one of our moderators for tonight.
Kevin Fetch. I'm a director with Connections, which is a business unit of Lutheran Social Services.
Thank you, Kevin, for agreeing to be in this space with us today as we review this information for the community. And tomorrow we'll also have Kevin, so he's doing double duty. So we'll have him and Cindy Bentley tomorrow. Next slide, please. So the Department of Health and Human Services, we consist of Behavioral Health Division, Disability Services Division, our Housing Division, Youth and Family Services. And since 2020, we've added more families. So now we have aging and we have veteran services. And our mission is to empower safe, healthy, and meaningful families. And our vision is together creating healthy families. We cannot do this alone. We need to be together on what we do for our community, for the individuals that we serve. And our values are centered around partnership, respect, integrity, diversity, and excellence. And that spells out pride. And we take pride in what we do and how we service the individuals that we provide services to in the community. Next slide, please. So we want to align with Milwaukee County and DHHS strategies. So the Milwaukee County overall strategies are to create intentional inclusion. And everybody wants to be included. We don't want to leave anybody out. So we want to make sure that there's opportunity for people to be at the table who want to be at the table. We also want to bridge the gap. There are some gaps in services and we realize that. And so we want to take the time to try to fill those gaps. We want to apply a racial equity lens to all our decisions and making sure what we're doing will benefit all the consumers in the community and those that we serve, even in terms of our employees as well. And we want to invest in equity. So we want to dismantle those barriers. We've had some barriers for years and years. So we want to tear down those barriers, break down those walls, and make sure that we're able to provide what we need to provide to the individuals that we need to provide it to. And we want to continue to implement our no wrong door. So what does no wrong door mean? Wherever you enter our service, if it's the children's area, the adult area, wherever you enter, you can get the services that you need. Families can get services from us, individuals, the youth, all kinds of populations that we work with. So that's our strategy number one, that's integrating services and care. We want to make sure that our services are integrated on time and fair in what's needed in the community. And our strategy number two also aligns with our county, overall county strategies. And that's our population health. We want to change the system. We want to move the needle because we've been in one place for a long time. So we want to move the needle to make sure that we're serving those individuals who need the services and we're providing what's needed. So we want to hear the community's voice. So that's a part of tonight's. We want to hear what the community has to say. Next slide, please. So our DHHS commitments, we want to address social determinants of health to achieve racial equity. So what's racial equity? Making sure that individuals have opportunities regardless of race. No limitations because of a person's color or a person's disability or a person's age. And no wrong door is making sure that when a person enters a door and they want to get services, say the family wants to get services, the family can get services, even if they called our children's line and they want to get services in the adult area, they're able to do that with a warm transfer and with information that we can provide to them. That's the no wrong door. And improve participant experience. You know, we've all been customers and participants at one point. We want to make sure that what individuals are experiencing are a positive experience, they're getting what they need, and they're able to say, hey, you know, I got so much great services from DHHS, I want to refer other people to DHHS. And we also want to streamline services, making sure that the services are available in a way that is consistent and streamlined for the public that we serve, and not sending somebody to a telephone line over here to get services, but being able to make those connections easily and making sure that there's access for everyone. So we want to improve our operations and our quality outcomes. So that's where you guys come in. You all can help us improve what we're doing. I mean, we've done some things a certain way for certain years. Now maybe it's time to change. I think COVID has caused us to really take a look at a lot of different ways that we're providing services, ways that we can do things differently, not just professionally, but also personally. So just making sure that we are aware of what's going on. So I ask that you help us do that. Next slide, please. So our DHHS racial equity beliefs, we recognize that there are disparities in the community, and that leads to different needs. You know, people have different needs and everybody doesn't need the same thing. And so we want to make sure that we take a look at that. And we know there are some gaps in services for our Black and Brown communities. So we want to bridge those gaps as well. And we value having individuals equally to ensure that they get what they need. Not everybody needs the same thing. Not everybody needs it the same way. So regardless of your ability, regardless of your age, regardless of race, we want to make sure that we're able to provide what you need and understand underlying needs of people. And needs change. We understand that your needs change from day to day, week to week. So we know things change. So we want to be able to change with those needs and provide what's relevant. Maybe what was relevant 10 years ago is no longer relevant. And we know populations can be unique as well. So we want to make sure that we're meeting those needs. And we want to acknowledge and rectify the current policies and practices that inflict harm. For example, some policies and procedures might inflict harm to a person in terms of attendance. If a person is addressed a certain way and they have to go home, well, that's inflicting harm because they have to go home and take time without pay instead of continuing at home. So that's instead of continuing working in the office. That's when we were in the office in that example. And so that would inflict harm to a person because they would not be paid for that travel time to their home to come back to the office. So that's what we're looking at. We're looking at our policies to make sure we're not leaving anybody out. We're not causing harm to anyone. And those are our employees. And those are one of our greatest resources are our employees. So we want to make sure that they're taken care of and we're not harming them in any way. Next slide, please. So DHHS has some major services, and I'll just go over a few of them with you tonight. So we have our children's and adults with disabilities. So we have our resource center. We have our children's long-term support, our birth to 3, our children's community options program, and we also have our adult protective services. We have our youth services, which is out at the Division of Youth and Family Services. That's the detention center, community-based diversion and peer support shelter and group care. We have our aging and adult services, and that includes our aging resource center, senior dining, which is 27 different sites, congregate sites, and that's really good. We even have some sites that cater to minorities, making sure that those seniors get what they want. You know, they want different kinds of food. And so we have different dining opportunities for them. And I've heard great things about that too. They love those dining sites. And transportation, we have wellness programs, social programming at the senior centers. We have legal benefit services, family caregiving services, community outreach, which includes Medicare. We have our interim disability assistance, which is our IDAP program. We have burial and we have energy assistance. Next slide, please. We also have some other major services at our behavioral health division, our adult and children acute inpatient care. We have our community consultation team. We also have our housing services, Housing First, homeless services. We're meeting the basic needs in DHHS, and we're working across the department to make sure everyone gets what they need. So if you need housing, if you need veteran services, if you need behavioral health services, you need disability services, we're able to help you. And not only just the individual, we can also help the entire family. So in our veteran services, we have healthcare aid grants that can help individuals. We also have life insurance grants. So I won't read all of those, but those are some of the services that we have, some of those major services. Next slide, please. So next I'll have Rachel talk about the Aging and Disability Resource Center.
Thank you, Marietta. So Milwaukee County, we're currently in the process of submitting an application to the state of Wisconsin to combine our Aging Resource Center and our Disability Resource Center to become an Aging and Disability Resource Center. With this integration, we would have one phone number, one location, trying to make accessing services for adults throughout their lifespan easier and more seamless. Initially, the ADRC is separate. Right now, we operate separate resource centers, but this integration, we hope, will enhance services and improve the customer experience. Potentially, we're hoping some improving timelines for services. We're joining together. We are maintaining expertise in areas to help people and support people in their decision making with experts on their side and advocates for them, but reducing that timeline between when they contact us for services and receiving those services. The ADRC model is in alignment with other counties across the state of Wisconsin. We've been the only county that has operated our resource centers based on a person's age rather than a combined aging and disability resource center. And we will streamline services to help people with disabilities and older adults get connected to services faster, resources faster, information faster, less wait time on when they're contacting us on the phone, things like that. Really focusing on the person-centered system of care, like Marietta has mentioned with the No Wrong Door and breaking down silos, really putting the person at the center of services and wrapping things around them that they need. You can move to the next slide, Samaya. Thank you. So in the last year plus, we've been really focusing on better collaboration between the divisions in the Department of Health and Human Services, which are listed here. Just a variety of achievements or projects that we've been working on, and then the different divisions that have been involved in collaborating to make those things happen. It's really been quite successful, and we're looking forward to increasing those collaborative opportunities, working closer together to support the customers and the residents of Milwaukee County. So just some highlights, some examples. There was some additional grant funding for meal deliveries to older adults outside of Milwaukee, Wauwatosa, and West Dallas, where Aging and Housing collaborated on that project. We have the Summer Youth Employment Program with placements for younger folks who have touch points with youth justice and or who have disabilities, which was a collaboration between Division of Youth and Family Services, Behavioral Health, and Disability Services. The Adult Protective Services and Guardianship for folks who have an intellectual or physical disability, who also have mental health diagnoses or concerns, between aging, behavioral health, and disabilities, all collaborating to serve and wrap services around those people too. Development of a streamlined process to connect our older adults who are veterans to services between, disability services, aging, etc. Cross-training of DHHS staff to ensure there is increased awareness of the unique needs of the population served across the lifespan. There's been a special focus on that this year, and I would say that is going to continue for years beyond. We need to do a better job of cross-training and just simply training and empowering people to meet people's needs. Presentations to advisory boards. We're really trying to recruit additional members to our advisory boards, whether that be the ADRC governing board or Commission on Aging was recruiting this year, CCSB. So we want to present to them where we've been explaining, here's what we're doing, here are all the wonderful things that we're doing. And also, hey, doesn't this sound interesting? Don't you want to become involved and have your voices heard? It's just historically very difficult to get people involved on those committees and boards. So we're making a special effort towards that as well. And then the creation of guiding principles with community stakeholders and representative from governing authorities, which all divisions have been working on, especially Shakita, Director LeGrant. So next slide, Samaya.
Rachel, this is Kevin. There is one question in the chat box. Do you want those now or do you want to wait?
Boy, we can, I think we could take a question now. I'm okay with that, Kevin. Thank you.
Okay. So the question is from Cindy. How will you deal with individuals with disabilities who have needs and disability services, not having funding for meeting those particular needs in their PADA services that are funded under disability services? Other groups such as aging and veterans have more funding sources, as well as BHD. Are you going to be pooling services?
I can take that, Rachel. Thank you for that question, Cindy. Yes, we are braiding funding. So what that means is we can, if DSD doesn't have it, we'll look across the division to the department to see if it can be provided. And as Rachel goes into this next slide, you'll see how the division is also connected with aging as well. But we're also connected with our larger department, our Department of Health and Human Services. So if that particular need cannot be met there, we'll find a way in another division to help. So we're breaking down those silos too, because traditionally we did not cross funding and didn't braid funding, but we're doing more of that now. So I hope that answers your question, Cindy. If not, you can also email me as well, and I can talk further with you about that.
Thanks, Marietta. Our contact information is included at the end of the presentation, but we could also put it in the chat as well. So this slide is a pretty high level organizational chart of the newly created in 2022 division that we're still waiting for an official name on. We'll get to that a little bit more later. But you can see that there's 3 programs that are coming together to create this new division in DHHS are the Area Agency on Aging, Adult Protective Services, and the Aging and Disability Resource Center. So serving adults across their lifespan with these variety of services, anybody age 17 and a half to end of life, reporting, of course, to the executive director of DHHS and then the county executive, David Crowley, with all of the governing authorities involved as well, such as the ADRC governing board, the Commission on Aging, County Board of Supervisors, etc.
Sinatra?
If you could keep yourselves muted, that would be helpful. Thank you. You can go to the next slide, Smile. We had just a little example of enhanced services to meet people needs. So a scenario. Do you want to go back? I just saw a question pop up from Barbara about the org chart. Sorry, Kevin, I'm taking over your job.
That's okay.
I don't understand the org chart. Can you explain what box will include disability services? Marietta, you might do a better job at taking what currently makes up disability services and explaining where all of those programs will fall.
Thank you, Rachel. So currently, Disability Services Division is the division that serves individuals in the DRC ages 18 through 59. And so if you see where over to the right, that's the Aging and Disability Resource Center. That is the integrated Aging and Disability Resource Center. So with the 11 managers and 76 non-management, that includes the current separate ARC and the current separate DRC, but it's integrated. And then Disability Services Division also includes Adult Protective Services. So our APS staff is here as well. And then it'll also include our AAA staff. And that's the Area Agency on Aging.
So Marietta, this is Kevin. I guess just as a follow-up question, what is different between the Area Agency on Aging and the ADRC? What is their separate functions, or how do they operate separately?
So Rachel, I'll have you answer that question.
Okay, and I just wanted to, before I get to you, Kevin, I just wanted to mention that the children's services that are in BSD will be merging with the youth and family services. Correct, Marietta? That's a accurate thing to say. So that
is accurate to say.
Thank you. Children, youth, and family services.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So the Area Agency on Aging, the best way for me to explain this, Kevin, is that they manage the variety of funding sources, as Cindy was pointing out earlier, for the Older Americans Act, and arrange and provide those services that are required and some additional services. So they're overseeing our contracts for home delivered meals, senior centers, which also do the congregate meals, congregate meal sites, our legal assistance, older adult counseling services, their transportation services. So there's all those direct services that are being provided, and that's what the Area Agency on Aging is overseeing, in addition to other things, but that's my best way of explaining. And the Aging and Disability, or the Aging Resource Center, or Aging and Disability Resource Center, would be an entity where people can call and receive unbiased, accurate information about resources to meet their needs, in addition, as you know, of being the entry point for determining eligibility for publicly funded long-term care. So the Aging and Disability Resource Center doesn't provide like the direct services. Like, I'm not going to provide someone with transportation, but I would provide them with the information on all sorts of transportation resources and help them connect to those that would work for them. I hope that helps.
It does, thank you. And then there's a couple other questions. Specific question for BHD, frequent visit clients with heavy mental illness. Now that BHD is closing, or maybe already closed, as they're not taking patients currently, the hospitals that have mental illness wings are full as of yesterday. Where should patients go when they are in a mental health crisis?
I don't know that we have anyone from BHD on the line, and I don't feel equipped to answer that. Marietta, do you, anybody on the line?
Well, BHD, I'm not sure if you all know, is moving to share the parking lot where Cox is currently located. So it is moving once the hospital closes. In terms of them not accepting patients right now, I was not aware of that, but I did put my email in the chat. If you want to reach out to me directly, I will reach out to Mike Lampa and get an answer for you.
Marietta, do you think maybe we can have an answer to that question by tomorrow's listening session? Potentially, I'm not saying Mike's gonna get back to you, but potentially.
We can try.
Potentially,
Okay.
we can try. If Mike gets
Okay.
back to me with the response, I sure will get to you.
Thank you.
Get to it. Thank you. And you can remind me, Kevin, hold me accountable because
I absolutely will, Marietta. The next question is, disability services currently provides other services than the DRC and APS. What happens to those services? Not all adults with disabilities are in long-term care.
So are you talking about our IDAP services, our burial services? Because our DBS services are also under the Aging and Disability Resource Center.
I'll let Barbara speak up on that. She's the one who typed in the question.
Thank you, Kevin. Well, I mean, over the years, there have been other services that disability services has provided. You used to fund crisis respite. You gave funding to community organizations like Life Navigators to provide respite and other services. Don't any of those things occur any longer?
So in terms of, we used to have a crisis, thank you, Barbara, I'm sorry. We used to have a crisis respite home. We no longer have that home. We haven't had that home in years because the need wasn't there. So we're trying to meet the need.
Yeah, well, I think the need is there. It's just that the managed care organizations didn't want to pay for it. So people definitely have the need and don't have anywhere to go. Don't you still do like contracts with community organizations that serve people with disabilities? Doesn't that occur any longer? Disability services always did that in the past.
So you're talking about in terms of contracts like, not respite contracts. We don't have any respite contracts. We do in adult protective services, if we have to place someone, we will partner with an adult family home for placement. And until they can get enrolled into publicly funded long-term care, but we don't have a respite, like you can call and say, this is a respite home. We don't have that at this point. But that sounds like a gap in service that we can take a look at though, Barbara. We're definitely willing to look at that.
Yeah, I just know for a lot of years that the county provided funding to community groups. Life Navigators is one, UCP is another. I mean, and they received funding from the county. And this was after long-term care was in place, but to provide additional services. So none of that occurs any longer.
Well, though, unless you're speaking about the advocacy contract, so we no longer have the
Okay.
advocacy contracts because we're combining and integrating the ARC and the DRC, there are staff members dedicated to do our outreach. So those contracts are helping us with outreach in the community.
So instead of giving money to community organizations, it's being used to fund county staff. Those contracts are going away. Is that what I think I hear you saying?
Those contracts are going away for 2022 because aging already had staff that was doing that. And because we're integrating, we're going to use that resource.
But their expertise is older adults, not younger people with disabilities who may have quite different needs. So I am
So we
trying to better
also
understand.
have cross training, and we also have individuals who are, they're experts with the older population, and we also have subject matter experts with the younger population, the 18 through 59. So we'll be talking to each other and coordinating those outreach efforts. But thank you for the question.
So our example of enhanced services, little situational. Sarah is a 58-year-old with a physical disability who resides in Milwaukee County. Sarah's spouse is a 66-year-old retired military veteran who has recently been diagnosed with dementia. They also have recently adopted or accepted guardianship of their 13-year-old grandson who had been in foster care and has experiences anxiety. While attempting to balance increasing food costs and medical bill payments, they've fallen behind in their utility bills. Sarah has also felt overwhelmed at times as a primary caretaker and is interested in participating in more social activities with peers. This is not an uncommon family that would enter through our doors at some point. They may initially contact us looking for resources for the 13-year-old grandson, but with our move towards No Wrong Door and really wrapping services around people, our goal would be to connect them with all the different variety of resources available through the county in order to meet all of the needs that are going on. So while that may not be the initial thing that they contact us for, through exploration and motivational interviewing and things, we learn more about them and connect them with other resources, such as energy assistance, veteran services, respite services, senior dining, wraparound children's mental health services, and then long-term care options counseling.
So now we'll have our Menti poll. Thank you, Jessica. And your participation is optional.
All right, give me a second to get it queued up here. The link is now in the chat for you to go ahead and access it. Otherwise, you can go to menti.com and the code is also now in the chat. There are a few demographic questions at the beginning, and we made sure to include in there the option where it says prefer not to answer. So if you wish not to answer, please make sure that you are choosing that option. It will not let you go to the next question until you've done that. Are you all able to access it now? It appears so. I'm just going to, I will be sharing the questions after we've entered the demographic information. I don't want to share that with everyone. Okay, give a couple more seconds and then I'll move on to the next question.
So I just want to read the code aloud because it looks like in the chat, there's a few people who are having some difficulty accessing it. So
Okay.
again, to access it, it's www.menti.com, and Menti is spelled M as in Mary, E, N as in Nancy, T as in Tom, I. And the code to access it is 981455563. I do see that someone, Barbara and some others may have had difficulty accessing it and they were getting stuck. So I just wanted to at least read that aloud to make sure that folks can access it if they so choose. Thank you,
Also,
Jess.
it's Barbara, it's pausing because Jess is waiting for people to answer the first question, and then we'll go to the next question. So just don't click refresh. Just wait a second.
And
Thanks for that.
I will add that it also worked just clicking on the link. It took me right to the questions and didn't have to enter the code or anything. So.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next question. You should be able to see that one now. All right, give you just a few more seconds for anybody else that would like to answer, and then I'm going to move on so we can get to the good questions here. All right, the next one is now available. Okay, and then the final demographic question is now there as well. Okay, I will now share my screen as we move on to the questions that we would like you to answer. And I'm not sure if Marietta or Rachel are going to be the ones that facilitate those questions, but I will present and you guys can take it away. Give me 1 second, technical difficulties.
Thanks, Jessica, and thanks for the technical grace, everyone. So the first question is, what can the combined ADRC do to make accessing services easier? Outreach, partner with community organizations, answer the phone, ensure cross-training, outreach, offer text options, emails. Okay, I like that option. Flexible, location, streamline, clear, information. Respond more quickly. Okay. Advertise more to increase, maybe to increase referrals. Have well-trained staff, information. Did I get all of them, Jessica?
I believe so. If you'd like, we can
Okay.
move on to the next question.
Okay. What can the ADRC do to improve the service system, such as mental health and disabilities and other services? Easier for CLs to access services. Connect people with benefits and with services. Streamline referrals inside DHHS and to outside organizations. Okay, thank you. Understand the other services, so there's a good networking. Yes, networking is essential. Be accessible to different languages, including ASL. Thank you for that. Yes, we don't want any language barriers. Warm transfers to other organizations as opposed to just giving phone numbers for individuals to call. Yes, we try to do that warm transfer when it's possible. Work with individuals to make caregiving an honorable career. Yes, and it truly is. It takes a certain person to be a caregiver, and you do it from the heart. So I appreciate the caregivers. Make information for families easier to find for all services provided by the ADRC, and maybe a link to other services online. Okay, we do have our website, and we can also put that in the chat as well. Have documents that are screen reader accessible for blind and low vision. Thank you for that. That's a great recommendation. Did I read all of them, Jessica?
Yes, you did.
Thank you. So the next question, are there other groups with people who are diverse in age, ability, race, gender, etc., that we should reach out to for input? Kevin, can you check the meeting chat? I think some people are having some challenges.
Keeps asking me to refresh. I think on this one, I know I had to go to next slide. So I don't know if that helps people as they go into the questions.
Okay. The Hmong population has little options that I've seen so far. Okay, thank you. New immigrants and agencies that support them. Great idea. Thank you for that. Refugees, okay. Religious organizations, service organizations, okay. ADRCs are supposed to serve people with mental illness, expand focus beyond long-term care. Thank you for that. ARAB families need help. Thank you. Our Space, Grand Avenue Club, Supportive Housing, and CRCs. Thank you.
All right, seeing no more coming in, I'll go ahead and go to the next question.
Thank you, Jessica. Oh, there was one, LGBTQ. So the next question is, what would you like our new division to be called? So now this is like the name game. What do you want the new division to be called? Remember, it's integrating aging and disabilities.
Do you want to offer the couple? There was a slide with a couple suggestions or ideas.
There were. So the two I know what they were on there. So there were two examples. One is adult community living. So that's one option. To talk more about the importance of community in the care. I don't have a name, but I would like it to include the word disability. So that's an option. Another one is that was offered was older adult and disabilities services. So family disability services. So yeah, we've received a few.
Do we have any more, Jessica? Okay, disability and older adult services. Okay.
With that one, I'm curious, is there a preference if it's older adults or disabilities listed first? Would that matter to people?
I think it should be alphabetical.
Okay.
I mean, that's usually how that kind of thing is done. Otherwise, to me, it implies hierarchy. And
Okay. No.
my concern that one's going to be more important than the other.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that honesty and transparency. I appreciate that.
And I think the last one, Samaya, was disability services for all. Okay.
So as Marietta mentioned, she did include her, and I just realized I don't even have my camera on. I'm sorry about that. Marietta did mention that she included her email address in the chat. So if there's other ideas that you have, we will be, having these conversations with other stakeholders as well, because we're very much interested in having a lot of input from various community members and into the name. So I'm kind of volunteering you, Marietta, but if you would please, email Marietta your other ideas as things come to you.
Thank you, Samaya. Yes, I appreciate that. All ideas are welcome. And you can email me with your ideas about the name and any other concerns, ideas, or recommendations that you have, please email me. And thank you in advance. So we'll go back to the presentation. So engaging young adults, and young adults are defined as ages 18 through 59. So DHHS is committed to engaging our young adults with different abilities. In doing so, there are 4 priorities that has emerged. Preserving services that are currently available to avoid the interruption of services. So young people are transitioning into adult services, and that can be a challenge for the parents, for the individual involved, if they don't know the system, they don't know what to expect. And so they'll still have the same advocacy opportunities, having someone to advocate on their behalf, and support them with decision-making through the ADRC. And re-envision how our justice system responds to youth adults using the developmental lens. So doing some cross-training, not just looking at it as a punitive thing, but cross-training, doing some joint screening and intake with our staff, our children's staff, our wraparound, our Division of Youth and Family Services. That means getting the consent forms from the parents for the youth to make sure that the youth can be involved in these programs, and braiding that funding. I mentioned that earlier, just not worrying about where the funding is coming from, but putting that individual at the center and making sure that we're able to provide the services for that individual to meet their needs. So expanding partnerships across DHHS with local organizations who serve people with disabilities ages 18 through 59. And ensuring that our young adults are able to hold leadership positions in various governing boards to influence those decisions in DHHS. So I ask that you help us recruit younger people. We have a hard time recruiting younger people to sit on boards like our Combined Community Services Board, our Aging and Disability Resource Center Board, the Commission on Aging. Please, 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 if you know younger people, you can email that to me as well, and I'll pass their names along to those leaders of those various boards. But we want to hear the younger people's voices. Now, we do appreciate those individuals who are currently on these boards. A lot of them started when they were between 18 and 59. And so now some of them have crossed over into being over 60, but that just shows their dedication. So we want to make sure that the young people get involved at a younger age and they're able to give us those great ideas that I know they have, and then we can move forward with that. So next slide, please.
Marietta, this is Kevin. I just have a quick question on that. Is there a mentorship or a training program to help people develop into those positions? I mean, it's one thing to get people to come in and sit on a board, and it can be very intimidating. I didn't know if there's some kind of training or mentorship to help people transition smoothly and successfully into some of those leadership positions on the various boards.
It's a really good idea.
Yeah, that's actually an excellent idea, Kevin. And we will take that and see if we can make that happen, because we want to set them up for success. You know, letting them know what to expect, how often the meetings are, what the subjects will be in the meetings, the agenda, how a meeting runs. And so you're right, we can develop that. So,
you know, and transportation is another barrier, or could be a potential barriers. Okay, you know, my meeting's at 10 o'clock. Which bus line do I need to take to ensure I'm there by 10 o'clock? Those logistic things as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, we will look into that. So
to that point, one of the other things, and we haven't been able to figure it out yet, but to see if there would be a way for us to even offer stipends at some point. We understand that there's different restrictions of us, you know, like paying people, but, you know, just to be able to validate the experiences of community members, that is something that we are exploring to see how we would be able to do that in the future.
And thank you for that, Samaya. Yes, we want to make sure that you're putting your all into this, and we value your time. So it's not like we're paying you a salary, but just a stipend that we can give you to say thank you, because we do appreciate your time that you've taken out of your busy day to be on a board. And a board member, that's a huge commitment. And so we want to recognize that with the stipend. So we are working on that. Thank you, Samaya. So some examples of our transition services, our children's long-term support waiver program, and the participants transition around their 18th birthday. And if they're ineligible for the adult long-term care, they can remain into CLTS until age 22. So we have a lot of participants in that program as well. Examples of services that assist with transitioning, we have adult family homes. Our CLTS can fund some of those homes related to care and supervision in a certified or licensed adult family home for youth over 18. So just to give you an example of what we're doing with the other divisions within the Department of Health and Human Services, some of those youth that enter the door, remember we said no wrong door. So they enter the door at youth justice, but sometimes disabilities monies are able to help them as well if they need to be in a licensed adult family home. And consumer education and training, that helps participants acquire the skills that they need to take control and responsibility over their other supportive services. Allowable costs may include conference registration, books, and courses. We had someone who wanted to go to a conference, so we were able to cover those fees and enroll into a course, so we can cover that as well under this program. Some housing counseling provides comprehensive guidance about options for a participant to obtain or remain safe in their home, making it accessible, affordable housing in the community that meets their needs and their preferences. So housing counseling could include planning, their guidance, assistance in accessing resources, in home ownership, financing, accessibility, related architectural services and consultation, health and safety evaluations for physical property. So we want to make sure that they're safe, they're getting what they need, and so they have housing counseling, which is very comprehensive. Next slide, please. And so some examples of transitional services like the wraparound services, the youth are connected in a short-term intense crisis care coordination program. And it serves the youth, not just the youth, but the entire family, because you just don't come by yourself, you come with the family. And so if the family needs something too, other members in the family, they're able to get it too. Remember, we go back to our no wrong door, so we can serve the youth in addition to their family as well, and prevent with the focus on preventing and responding to mental health crises to reduce inpatient hospital stays. We also have the supported education and employment. And that's a grant that allows children community mental health services and their wraparound services. And we're in partnership with St. Charles Youth and Family Services to implement the individual placement and support model. So that's focusing on the individual needs, not just putting everybody in the same, the same model, but it's really person-centered, person-focused, evidence-based, and it addresses employment and education gaps within the transition age population, 16 and a half to age 23. And just so you know, we had a youth employment program this summer, started in June, and was able to employ over 130 youth for the summer. So we're very proud of that. And we're hoping to keep that not just for summer jobs, but for jobs throughout the year. So that's something that we're hoping will expand.
Marietta, how do you guys promote that? How do you promote that you got these, you have these individuals that you have jobs with?
So we have our Division of Youth and Family Services, Disability Services, wrap around promoting that. If we miss you, Kevin, I am so sorry, because we felt like we put a blast out to everybody that was on our list. We were able to put it on our website, DSD website. We put it on DYFS website, wraparound website, and we were asking for children between these ages to come for summer employment.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So engaging young adults. How can DHHS engage young adults who have different abilities better? What can we do? And we need you guys to help us out. Is this another mentee, Jessica?
No, it is not.
It's not a mentee, so we can use the chat, or people can feel free to unmute themselves and share, since the session is recorded.
Okay.
Marietta, I guess my suggestion would be, I think even when children are younger and in that, in the children's waiver, can we start exploring at a younger age the opportunities to be employed, that you can vote, being active in your community, younger age, because too often I have seen as an advocate, as a parent, with someone who started in the community support program, transition to the children's waiver, then to the adult waiver. People don't even think about employment until they hit that transition age school. Can you start having conversations when someone's in that birth to 3, in that children's waiver prior to transitioning to school, that yeah, they can work, they're not going to lose their benefits. Start having those conversations sooner, and maybe that gets worked in with the providers that are contracted to do that work, those types of things. I think not just pigeonhole them, okay, you have to go to a day program, you have to go to the sheltered workshop, you have to do the traditional things, and maybe start looking at those untraditional avenues to be a community member.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. So the sooner the better.
Yes.
And start the younger people, the sooner the better. And they can get the knowledge, and the parents also, educating the parents as well. So that's a gap. So we need to make sure that we put some resources toward the education of younger people sooner rather than later. Talking about jobs, I'm not sure what age you were thinking about, but a lot younger than what we're doing now.
Yes.
And honestly, one of the initiatives that we were looking to have funding for would be for young people age 14 to 24. So that kind of looks at like the opportunity youth. So young people before they're kind of aging out of the children's programs, and then bridge the gap as they're transitioning into adulthood. And we don't necessarily have it in this presentation, but there are also lots of efforts to look at emerging adults, and that emerging adult age goes up to age 29. That's so important because that's the age where, tends to be the childbearing age. So if we're able to work with the young people, help them transition, it can also become an early childhood intervention, because if the parents are supported, the children are supported, so there's this circle of support that we're able to offer around the family. So there are lots of things that we're looking for that aligns with best practice. And you'll see some other municipalities around the country who are doing that. And again, we're just looking to leverage funding here in Milwaukee County, either through braided funding, through private resources, through grants, so that we are able to do that.
I have a question on that. This is Rachel from ANS Guardianship Services. I work with DVR very well. I don't know if that is an 18 or older, or is that for younger as well?
As far as I know, I want to say DVR starts at 18, but don't quote me on that. I know that's what they used to do in the past.
Well, my son, when he was in transition at school, he did some youth on the job training while he was still in the children's waiver. He did his 3 work experiences. So the process started with DVR prior to turning 18. And I know some of that is the responsibility of the schools. But I know that, not everybody's geared to go to school. So I believe DVR starts before 18. They're part of that transition process in the schools.
Thank you for that.
Find out, Rachel, and I can find out, Rachel, and let you know. If you could just send me an email. I did put my email in the chat, and I'll check.
Yeah, I have your email. Yeah, I've emailed you a few times already. Thank you. I have actually one more follow-up question on that. I have quite a few clients that are younger adults, in their 20 or 30s, that are not, they're not able to read and write much more than their names. I don't know if there's any sort of programs that could kind of help. I know that there's specialty programs in schools, but I feel that without the right home support, that some of those efforts from the schools are limited. I'm not sure if anything can be added with that, because I know that I'm trying very hard to get some of my clients into reading and writing classes, and they're a little hesitant because they don't want to I think they don't want to feel like they are lacking in some way.
I have a question about that. Are there challenges with reading and writing due to literacy? Is it an intellectual disability? Is it both? Do you know what the cause or what's contributing to the level of literacy?
For the clients that I'm specifically talking about, it is a very low IQ that they have, and also a very vast family dysfunction prior to 18.
Okay. Because that would probably contribute to like the type of partners that we would work with. Maybe that's something that we could learn more about and kind of hear from you offline if you'd be willing to share that information and maybe some of your ideas on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Rachel. I look forward to the email. Kevin, I think we might have some questions in the chat.
Yep, so going back, I think Paul had entered something when we were going back to getting youth involved in the boards. Can you partner with Milwaukee County Transit with bus passes, to help provide that transportation to board meetings and things like that? So that was a suggestion going back there. And then Hope just added using adaptive tools for reading and writing. I think that goes to Rachel's comments about literacy and things like that.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin. Yes, we can actually, for a board member, we would be able to provide transportation if they needed a bus pass. Yes. And then Hope offered some resources using adaptive tools for reading and writing. So Rachel, maybe we can talk about that when you reach out to me as well. So thank you, Hope. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Kevin.
Of course.
Hello, this is Marcus Watts from DBR. Yes, we do work with high school students.
Thank you, Marcus. That's one question I don't have to answer now. Thank you so much. So can you tell us the exact age that you start?
The counselors go into the high schools, so junior, seniors in high school to make that transition, to decide what they're going to do after high school, to put a plan together and wrap services around them.
Now, does the school have to make that referral, or can a parent make the referral?
A parent, definitely, a parent can sign their child up for services with DBR, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Marcus, this is Kevin. I just kind of have a follow-up question on that. How is capacity with the supported employment agencies right now? I know that's always been a challenge, especially in the last year. Easter Seals discontinued providing that service. So how is capacity with some of the supported employment agencies right now?
We work with all the major employers here in Greater Milwaukee, of course, the Goodwills, but I'm a business service consultant, so we actually go out and educate employers regarding an untapped talent pool for people with disabilities. So it's a pool that they're not even thinking about often. So my job is to go to talk to employers to get them to consider hiring people with disabilities.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. I remember when I was at Goodwill and other agencies, we called that job development. So I'm not quite sure what it's called now, but that was years ago. So yeah. Thank you. I appreciate your comments. All right. So Kevin, can you take the next slide?
Sure.
I'll go ahead.
So as we integrate services that are part of the adult system of care, ages 18 to 100 plus, their caregivers and their support persons, we're looking to find a new name. Please respond to the Menti poll, which we did. So I think this is I think we already took care of this one, didn't we, Marietta? With the names?
We did. And so some of the names, the examples down there, adult community living, older adults and disabilities services. Anybody?
If any more names came
Names.
to anybody, the Menti poll for that one is still open.
So with that, I think we've actually completed all of the questions and the presentation. Are there any other ideas or concerns or points of interest that any of the participants would like to share with us this evening?
This is Barbara, just in terms of engaging people in the different boards and so on. One suggestion I wanted to make is if you had a very simple flyer that was shared with people who are getting options counseling, and you let them know about the opportunities. And of course, a lot of those are going to be younger people, because to enter the long-term care system, you got to go in through that doorway through the ADRC. So you're serving all those people. So that would be the suggestion, to have a way to promote the opportunity to people who you're already talking to.
Good idea.
You might consider having an advisory group specific to young people, to younger people too. That maybe that would be something that would have some appeal, for people to connect with their peers in that way.
Thank you, Barbara. Those are great ideas. I really appreciate that. We need to get them involved. So a young people advisory group is a great idea. And then we can probably mix in the mentoring with that, so they'll know what to do, what to expect, and how to do it. So thank you so much. That's a great idea. We'll work on that.
So there is a question from Hope. Is there going to be a focus on assisting people who live in nursing homes and want to move out but don't have housing?
Yeah, so we have our housing division as well. Again, as we talk about the braided funding and putting the person at the center, making sure that the person has housing and food and things that they need in order to be successful in the community. So yes, Hope, thank you. Any other questions? Comments, recommendations? Any comments from staff? Any comments from our moderator? We really thank you, Kevin, for moderating.
You're welcome, Marietta.
Sure. Oh, I do see a question.
So Paul, with ANS guardianship, do we have a dedicated trainer for the youth?
A dedicated trainer for the youth in terms of guardianship, or can you come on, Paul, and ask your question? I'm not quite sure I understand what you mean.
Hi, Marietta.
Hi.
When you were talking about before setting up the programs for the youth, I mean, is there like someone that's dedicated to train the young people that's coming in as to what they need to do as far as helping the other young people get into these programs? Because sometimes it's better when people are trained by people in their own age category. They're more
Right. They can respect each other better because they can relate because they're at that younger age. So yes, we do have like job coaches to help the younger people. This is what you do when you go on a job. This is how you do it. So we want like this year was our foundational year where we're building up that summer youth employment program. So next year we'll ask those who were involved this year to come back and talk to the individuals that are enrolled for the next session, so that they can see how I was successful in this program and how you can be successful in this program. And our ages are very much alike. I'm sorry, Paul, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you.
And it looks like.
Can I
Okay, go
ask
ahead.
that, Marietta? One of the other things is like when we were very intentional about some of the community-based organizations that we partnered with. So with the summer youth employment program, but then also prior to that during COVID, there was another youth program that we had that was paid for by CARES dollars in partnership with Employ Milwaukee and the city of Milwaukee and Running Rebels. And so what we did is we paired young people with mentors from Running Rebels and with folks from Employ Milwaukee. And they also received like life skills coaching to help make them, or I should say, to help improve their ability to be successful in their employment. And the amazing thing is that even after the subsidized employment ended, several of the employers decided to hire those young people on full time because they were so successful. So we have a few different models and examples where providing like a nice amount of supports for these young people really does help them thrive and maintain that employment. So we do definitely appreciate the feedback that you've offered, and we've been, working really hard to make sure that those partnerships, the vendors and the contractors are able to help us support the young people as well.
And just to add to that, Samaya, we were very intentional with the employers that were chosen as well. So we educated them before they entered into this agreement with us. You may have to be patient with our younger people, and you may have to tell them more than once how to do a job, or the job coach is there to show them and to help them. So we were trying to make sure that everybody was set up for success. It's a win-win all around, a win with the youth and a win with the employer as well.
So I think Samaya answered Hope's questions. How are you going to connect youth with peer mentors, with the partnerships and what you did there. So there was a question from Cindy. Will there be an ability to braid some deprogramming in for people who do not meet criteria for mental health up employment or day program services because their intellectual abilities are too low? So Cindy, I'm not sure what the question is there. Can you just speak to that, please?
If you're talking, Cindy, you're on mute.
Okay, yeah, I'm out of mute. Okay, actually, I'm Julie Alexander, and I know that I'm on a borrowed computer here. My question is, with everything coming together, say you have a person with mental health disabilities who doesn't meet family care criteria right now, but has some of the needs that a person would have for regular day programming. Because basically, she was in the mental health complex for such a long time, and she's learning all this stuff. Will there be a way to braid something in so that she could get into like regular day programming rather than, having to depend on the mental health programming that usually is part of combined community services, or going to like some of those particular programs where it's not daily and you have to be a whole lot more assertive. She's not communicating much, but she's out. So I'm just wondering if there'd be a way of braiding something in for something like that.
And so the short answer would be yes, Cindy, because we don't want any person left behind. Our goal is to be the healthiest county in the state of Wisconsin. And so those are individual situations. And if you would like, could you please email me, and then we can talk offline about that case?
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
So right now, Marietta, that's all the questions that are in the chat.
Okay. No more questions. Any questions from our presenters? Rachel, our very talented helpers, Jessica and Samaya, any comments or questions from you guys?
I do not have any questions. I would just thank everyone for coming and participating, not only coming, but also participating.
I see Barbara turned her camera on. Do you have a comment, Barbara, recommendation or?
No.
Yes, okay. All right. Just want to make sure everybody gets
You've
the
heard from me
opportunity.
quite a bit.
So Marietta, I will add that now that I've been through the presentation, there's another opportunity to give you time. You saw it today, you have time to think about things. There's another presentation tomorrow. So, you have time to think about some of this and come up with some more ideas.
And invite others to
Yes.
attend.
Yes, yes. Please
tried.
invite others to
tried.
attend. Thank you all for your participation tonight. I really appreciate